Hey everybody, we're back in international waters.
International waters.
not currently United States. It's the life aquatic. Look, your entire being right now is crazy. You're like glowing.
I'm glitching the system.
He's glowing.
I'm glitching GlitchSlap right now.
That your glasses look amazing right now. You look like you're on fire.
Both of your shirts are still showing some green.
Oh, look at that! I have some like. Okay, I've got
Got some stuff going on too.
If I get any more white in my beard, it's going to start to go away too. Looks a little green from the lighting. Anyway, this is not what we're talking about today. Today we're going to talk about Konami, because Konami's in the news right now, and everybody's freaking out that Konami is going to like disappear or something. Is anybody here worried about that? You guys worried about Konami disappearing?
No. Konami does not affect my life on a daily level. They don't feed me. They don't pay my bills.
So you just don't give a shit. Either way, if Konami goes away, there's nothing. But there's no games that they currently really put out that you're still. They haven't put out for you in a while, have they?
They have not. I wish I could get into that moist Konami again.
Is that what you call it? When you have inside the Konami? It does look like a little bit of colorful hell. Like if you look at their logo, if you
Turn
were
it like
just a little bit,
45 degrees.
then maybe that could be
Get right in there, right in that space.
a couple
between
of
the red and the
meat
orange.
curtains right there that you could get in between with your mayonnaise. What about you? You think Konami's going away?
Yeah, I think Konami's going away, but as far as like the games that they've made, I mean, it's not like Kojima's going to stop doing what he does.
Well, that's
He's
the
just going
thing.
to find a new team to work for. So
That's the thing, right? Is that like Kojima doesn't own any of the property rights that he's been working. So it's not like, he's going to be able to keep making Metal Gear games without Konami. They own that.
Yeah.
He can't make Castlevania games. He can't make Silent Hill games. He can't make Zone of the Ender games. So he has to come up with this whole other deal because he doesn't own the IP. I don't think Konami's going anywhere. Most of their business actually isn't even on home-based games. And I've read a lot of articles recently of people talking about they might get out of the console market. But and Mike and I were looking at this yesterday. If you go back as far as like 1995, between 95 and 2005 was really the huge Konami heyday, because Konami was the first company, just about 10 years ahead of its time, maybe 5 years, to bring out all the rhythm games. And we're going to talk about those in a minute. But where people would play Guitar Hero, well, it was called Guitar Freaks, and we got kind of Guitar Hero instead. But there was guitar games, there was drum games, which we still have, and we use them as like Rockman and stuff like that. Dance Dance Revolution, pop music, all these other games, and they would bring them out such that you had 4 or 5 of what was the same game, but it was like this month they released second mix, next month they released fourth mix with different songs in it, right?
Correct.
Well, now we can just download the songs, and that's why they only have theirs. So they still bring out DDR, they still bring out new pop and mix and pop and fresh. Pop and fresh music, but the cabinets themselves can actually download updates.
Which cabinets are you talking about?
Like when you have like a DDR cabinet now, the newer ones that you get like what's the one that you with the keyboard? B-Mania, is that what it's called?
B-Mania?
Yeah, they can. The cabinets they have in Japan when we were there actually have they're capable of. They have network cards, and they can just download updates for new music using a console.
When did they do that? Because my DDR machine, you had to update it with a CD and a chip.
3 or 4 years ago? Brand new ones? I haven't seen the new DDR stuff that comes out that's by Konami. I haven't seen in America in a while, and you can blame GameWorks for that because GameWorks is the only company that bought it new now. But that being said, Mike was a really big fan. Loves a lot of the beat stuff. He himself being a master DJ. King of the Cheese. So why don't you go through?
That's Dance Dance Revolution, the American one, right?
It is the American one. Yeah, I don't remember what the color of the Japanese one.
I started playing it when it was still in Japan and it hadn't been brought over and ported over yet. They were coming out mixes like the first mix, second mix, third mix, fourth. And I got seriously addicted to this shit with my friend, and ultimately that's what ended up opening an arcade because of it.
Now, when was the last time you played? Have you ever played? You have too much sex to bother with like physical games, right?
yeah.
Okay. So he doesn't have to do that very much. But the rest of us who don't or aren't necessarily like king of the hill when it comes to getting laid.
Dude, what the hell are you talking about, man? Damn.
Okay, I'm alone. Mike gets laid a lot. I don't, because I'm out of town a lot and I don't like hookers. But so when's the last time you physically played DDR?
I think I played it at Ground Control in Portland a year and a half, 2 years ago.
How good were you at it?
Well, it's like motor reflexes. It's just like a boxer. If you keep doing something long enough, it becomes muscle memory. So I could play it, and I was playing medium, but I couldn't play high anymore.
I got fucked. I think I played the same one you played. And Jason and I were there, the old dirty gamer Jason. Hey, Jason. We tried playing it, and I'm so fucking old. Holy shit. I was tired. We were like sweating, and I didn't used to be that way. And I tried playing it, my legs actually stopped responding. Like, I was trying to, because I was playing it on hard. I was like, man, I used to play this shit on fucking extreme. And my legs were just like, ah! We had to like grab the bars because we had to, not because we were trying to be cool, but because if I didn't, I couldn't move my legs anymore. It's pretty fucked up.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have a video from? Oh, so this is what it looks like here. For those of you who haven't seen it, I have to believe you have, but maybe it's been long enough now that we've got some viewers who are not as familiar with how it works. But there's basically like pads, right?
Yeah, 4 pads. One left and right, one up and down, and they're basically just hit them one time. When the arrows get to the very top, you just hit that arrow. I don't know. This looks like this might be off that new DDR. See that last image you showed?
DDR
that was up there. That is the new DDR.
Right.
And I'm assuming that's the one you can upload the songs to.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming this image is from that as well.
I would presume.
Because the old school DDRs that I used to play didn't have like a person that looked like that. It was like cartoon characters almost.
Right. Well, because the graphics sucked.
Yeah,
So they had to deal with the polygons. It was like Final Fantasy VII with dancing.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, whoever's got the 221 combo is obviously very awesome.
It's also much better than the person on the left.
30 combos, probably more like me right now.
That's me right there. That's Will right there.
Yeah.
Will.
This DDR still has a following to this day. There's a lot to be said about that.
Yeah, I mean, I actually went to college and I bought you could buy these online custom metal pads that were actually like replicas of the ones that were, and I bought 2 of those, and they were hardcore. Like, you could beat the shit out of them and they would stand up. It was different than the home ones you buy that were like the roll-out flat plastic mats, and you'd have to play on
Twister mat?
Yeah, basically, and if you tried to play on them, you would use like your socks, you'd fucking fall over because you.
Yeah.
And at some point, they weren't very responsive. So we were all into this for a good year. So I like invested in them. They were like $125 a piece. So it was like $250, but you could hammer away at it. I got super good. I would come back in the evenings when I needed to burn some calories. I'd sit around and play naked.
I think at some point, some of the DDRs came out with calorie counters on them.
They did, yeah. And that was something that they took when they started making stuff like Wii Fit, which was funny because Wii, I feel like, kind of capitalized on what at that point in time everybody loved. What was that? Was it like 2004, 2005 was the end of that big? Like everybody and their fucking mom was playing DDR. And that was when the Wii came out and they added the Wii Fit. And they're like, oh, well, Nintendo being who they are is always like that person who shows up right after that good DJ starts playing.
Did DDR and Guitar Hero overlap or
No.
no?
There was never. But when we
I remember a Guitar Hero craze more than I remember a DDR craze.
Guitar Hero craze was like started at the end of the DDR craze. So
Okay.
the DDR craze would happen up until 2004, 2005. And then I graduated from college. That's the only reason why I remember this so well. Graduated from college. And then the next year was when people first started. Guitar Hero existed, but it was mostly when Harmonix, I think,
Yeah,
was
it
the
was
company.
Harmonix.
Harmonix kind of, I want to say, stole the idea because Guitar Freaks had been around since like fucking 2001. And Guitar Freaks was Konami's version, but it never really came.
I remember
out here.
playing Guitar Freaks at an arcade like here. It was like
They had it at
Golfland.
Golfland, yeah, and stuff. And I loved that game. I actually, because I had never been exposed to it when I was doing exchange in Japan in like 2003, I bought the plastic guitars and had like 15 different copies of them. And I brought it back to America and showed some people, and they were blown away. Holy fuck, this is the best game ever. So I think that's why when some of the harmonic stuff came out, I was already over it. Like Most
Yeah.
of Japan was. I was like, who cares? But America never had it. And Konami didn't have a good enough engine of marketing to get people to want to buy plastic guitars, so they stopped bothering. Now Harmonix came in, and they that was around when the PS2 came out, and had been out for a little while, and Harmonix was like, okay, we're going to try just going straight for the PS2. They reinvested and they get Guitar Go, but it was very Americanized, like you played like in a band, and none of that was there. So they kind of came in on that and took over and pulled from there. And Konami, I think, has never really recovered in the music scene on the American side since then. They tried to bring out Beatmania, U-Mania. In Japan, they have a whole lot of shit. Exactly right here.
Super great game. Beatmania 2DX is such the skill level required to become a master of that game. It's intense. Seriously intense. You can watch videos of people playing 2DX online, and you're like, what the fuck?
And you can play this extended too, right? So like it's right here, it shows like basically two people playing together, and they have the keyboards and the spins. But you can actually set it up, at least in the Japanese one, I'm guessing here, that you can play all of them.
Yes.
So you're playing one player with all these keys and these two fucking spin things, and it looks very much like somebody's DJing.
Yeah, I always wanted to buy one of those. So that's one of the machines that I was never able to buy. I had a Beatmania machine, like the classic ones,
Right.
which was 5 keys, and it had like really shitty graphics, and the music on it was like almost like MIDI sounding.
Right.
But it was all I could afford. 2DXs were like fucking $6 to $8 grand to get. And at that point, you just didn't spend that much. I would love to fucking have one of those machines. They're sick.
So I
Super sick.
don't know if you know this about these machines, but one of the things that Konami's always done, and Konami's, as I was saying earlier, their bigger investment is actually in like pachinko machines and all kinds of other like betting machines, gambling machines, and stuff like that, online poker machines that they do in Japan. So they were poised to create very creative cabinets like this that came and they were super cool. They looked like you were like on a stage, right? And lots of lights going. So when you were asking about stuff fitting together, you could actually get Drumania, Beatmania, Guitar Freaks. And I feel like there was one more that it might have been Keyboard Mania.
Keyboard Mania.
And it didn't have the spins, but it was just a full keyboard. And you could actually connect them all together, and there was large sets of songs that you could select to play a whole rock band. And the reason why we never got that is because Harmonix just fucking released Rock Band all in one deal. And people were like, oh, well, now I can just, karaoke and all that other stuff. I don't know if there was ever a karaoke one. I don't think there was, because in Japan people pretty much don't want to sing on their own. They're cool pushing buttons everywhere and doing things, but they're not going to sing out in public. So how much of this game have you played? Like
2DX?
Yeah.
Oh, tons. I played it a lot. I bought the Japanese controller and a bunch of Japanese games because I used to have a Japanese PS2, so I would just play 2DX a lot. I got pretty good at it.
maybe we should. I'm going to be over in Japan later this year. It's too bad you can't bring along, but if we did, maybe I'll go and see if I can find some of these and take some video of us playing them and put them up and just kind of talk about them. So we can't stream you in and stuff. So what do we have after this one? This one is Beatmania. Papa music.
Papa music.
Papa music. So tell us about this.
So this game, despite the fact that it's a little bit cutesy, there's a lot of different characters in it, but it had a unique controller. It's kind of like, imagine like
Giant gumballs.
One of those gopher games where the gophers pop
Yeah.
up and you hit them, except it's just buttons arranged like that, and then when they come down the screen, just like in any of these other rhythm games, you hit it right when it gets to the line. And it was just cool because it had like this long arrangement of buttons on the controller, and you're like slapping them like crazy while the music's playing.
You ever play this game?
No.
We were gonna take you on to Tokyo so you have to see some of this stuff. But people would do it, and because it's rhythm based, you watch and they like bap 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 bap. And it's also a 2-player game too. And so we're coming through how some of this works right now. But the 2-player machines actually have 2 sets of buttons. But then again, like some of the other games, you can play the extended one, which is kind of I think what's going on here. You can play the extended one where you would take the whole set instead of 2 players. And some people would choose to do it.
Fast.
Oh, it's super. This is on like easy. There you go.
Jesus.
This is easy? I don't think this is easy.
No, I thought it was until it started going. I think this is normal or something. It's not extreme. People just get really good at this.
Yeah, there's a lot harder levels than this.
Yeah, you can see videos of people.
Yeah. It's actually pretty fun. Like if you're ever in an arcade and you're
How do you
somebody
hit
that's really
four
good
at once that are all separated? Like,
So that's when you have two people playing.
oh, okay.
So there's two people who are standing next to each other, and you can either play it so that each person has their own set, or you can play together. You play together, and you have to kind of trust and be coordinated with the other person will be there. So you'll hit these two, and they'll reach over and hit those two with you. It's like playing chopsticks, but at the same time.
Poppin' music through the fire and flames.
Oh
Right?
God, Jesus. Yeah, I think
That's what it reminds me of.
well, this is unfortunately it's one of those games that we're never going to see because they ask themselves, would American audiences like this? And they think that because it's too quirky, if it's not something so normal, we won't like that. I think we're beyond that. I think if you had this machine in your arcade, that people would come in and play it. So,
Absolutely. Maybe the only reason why I think is that people have a problem with it is because the songs are very Japanese. But nowadays, I mean, I think kids nowadays are really all
Kids
into
nowadays.
anime. And the anime is like more wide
Absolutely.
open to the public. So I think this would be like something nowadays.
This is like hypnotizing.
but even if it wasn't, I mean, at least in terms of the menus, it wouldn't cost that much to translate the menus.
No, not at all.
Like that. And they get a lot more games than just this. Like, did you ever play Pong Pong? The Pong Pong. It's called Pong because it's like an onomatopoeia. So they have these big taiko drums.
Oh yeah. Taiko no Tatsuji.
Yeah.
I played that one.
Yeah, taiko. Yeah, and well, the colloquial was before.
Is that Konami that does that one?
I don't think so. It might be. Like they do a lot of games. I lose track of them. Have you ever seen that one where you have these big taiko drums? You take these two sticks, and it's super simple in its complexity because the drums are just they're set up into half and half. So you do the right half of the drum, the left half of the drum, or the outside of the drum. So there's really only 3 buttons, but you have to like there's another mode where you can actually use both drums, but it's super cool. There's a lot of different types of stuff that we never get to see in terms of what music. I think it's unfortunate. Konami is still the big producer of that stuff, and I really don't even know if they get our stuff over there. I've never seen a rock band arcade in Japan. All the times I've ever been at.
Well, that Guitar Hero arcade machine sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. It's much. It's horrible.
That looks familiar.
So that does look very familiar. That's Punchmania. That's Punchmania 2, which is the one that I own. And the reason why they're showing 2 cabinets there is because you can link them together. And there's special modes where you can play 2 players.
Head to head, right?
Yep. And that would be something that would be really cool to do at some point. But they are expensive machines. So.
Well, tell us about how it works.
It's like you're playing Fist of the North Star. You're playing characters from Fist of the North Star and you fight against them. The pads flip out at you and you have to hit them in the order they come out. And there's a timing that goes to it. So it is a rhythm game, just like any other Konami music game. It's just that it's geared towards fighting.
So I think on the inside of those things, when they pop out, when we saw those 4 parts, there's actually a lighting fixture inside. And it's not just when they move, you have to wait for it to light up to hit it.
Yeah. The light basically turns on right when the pad comes all the way out. So you basically you know that that's exactly what you're supposed to do. Just like DDR, if you hit it too early, you get a bad score. If you hit it right on, you get a good score.
Right. Yeah. When one of the bars that you were running here recently, you had it up in there, and people would come in and watch it, just punching the shit out of it.
Yeah, and they'd always do it while we were trying to have some sort of a meeting before we were over.
Yeah.
I'd be like, seriously, stop punching that thing for 2 seconds,
Right.
all right? We're almost done.
Well, nobody knew how it worked. That's the funny thing. And you can blame on the fact that nobody wants to translate that stuff when it comes over. Like most people, I think, are just happy that it got there. That's what it's right there.
They did do an American version of this.
Okay.
Punchmania 1 did get an American release, and they called it Fighting Mania. I played it once in Salt Lake City.
How did they change it to fighting game?
I don't know. And
That's
and
weird.
it was funny because it was like all dubbed.
Okay.
But the problem is, number 1, only had like so many stages.
Right.
And that was it. I never really saw the American version of the arcades. except for that one.
I think people don't want to. They get scared. Like, there's hardly any arcades left. We're seeing, I think, a little bit of a resurgence in it because of people liking it again and having the ambiance of it. There's not as many of them left, and so they don't feel like there's enough reason to invest in it. But to me, I think you're right. I think that there's not enough people out there who care that they won't play a game because it's not in English. You just have to change the menus, at least so people know what's going on. Because that was what I noticed when they played this, and you see that you're supposed to punch it at certain times, and people had no idea, even though it's said in Japanese, punch it when the red light lights up. They don't know what that means, so they would just hit it the second it started moving at all, as if it was one of those, as you said earlier, mole games. And I was like, no, you gotta wait. And I'd explain it to somebody, and then suddenly they'd actually win a fight. But most people, they would just punch the shit out of it and then lose. They had no idea why.
They want to punch it as hard as they can. That has nothing to do with the game. You can tap the pad and you get the same score.
Tap.
Just tap it. It's all about timing.
Tap.
Speed is on.
Tap.
Yeah.
Or what do we got next?
Suikoden.
Right. So this is something that did you guys, either of you actually play this series?
No.
Okay. So Suikoden might be what a lot of people would consider Konami's Final Fantasy.
Makes sense.
It's split up. It's been around since PlayStation 1, so Konami wasn't investing in these kind of JRPGs back then. And 1 and 2 are some of the most celebrated PlayStation games that have ever existed. I have personally not played through them myself, but I did a lot of studying on them. I know people who played them. I've had enough discussions about them that I feel like I played them. They wanted to take a lot of things from a lot of different places all at the same time and put them into one game. So did you ever play Ogre Battle?
No.
Did you ever play Final Fantasy X?
Yes.
You did. I know you did. You loved it. So there are 3 different types of battles in this game. There's one-on-one duel battles. There's dungeon party battles, where it's like your 5-on-5 classic Final Fantasy-esque. And then there's the strategy battles, where you have large number of people versus large number of people. So depending on the situation and its storylines, you have to drive it, just like a lot of JRPGs. It would change how you had to fight. So like that scene right there we're seeing there, that's the 3-on-3 or the 5-on-5 party type battle. And then when it's a big over the top thing, it turns into a kind of an army battle, which you see right there. So you had to do different ones depending on different situations, which was unique.
That looks fucking stupid.
It was unique. But a lot of people really like this series, and this is, I think this is a video for a collection of it. And they tried to change some things over time that some people didn't necessarily like. One of the things I've noticed about American audiences is that they don't react as well to Chinese-based stuff as the Asian markets do. And this is actually, Suikoden is called, I forget what it's called. It's like water bridge or water, I don't remember what it's called now. But the name is actually one of the 4 or 3 great Chinese works of literature, is what Suikoden is. And so this is their reimagining of what is referred to as the 108 stars in Chinese literature. This shows you like a top-down view of one of the towns and one of the games. They recently did an HD remake, actually it's not too recent, I think it was 2005, 2006, where they re-released Suikoden 1 and 2 in a higher resolution. But what happened was...
Did they change it at all, or is it the same game?
They added a couple of things here and there, but it's pretty much the same thing.
Like Chrono Trigger added a few things
Yeah,
in there,
exactly.
or Twin Snakes added a few?
No, like Chrono Trigger.
Okay.
And then just updated it for a couple of things. But they changed it so dramatically, and the hardcore audiences that loved it, they didn't stay with it like people have stayed with Final Fantasy. Like people will jack up Final Fantasy, make it totally different. They'll fucking complain that they still sell 10 million copies. That didn't happen with this. So I think it's definitely one of those things that's ripe for that right there's a party battle. The thing I was talking about. The very classic JRPG thing. I think it's ripe for a remake, either a reboot and a complete reimagining, and it's something that they own the IP on, so they can do. But they're definitely going to have to get around the fact that, again, I don't know what it is, but American audiences just don't like ancient Chinese shit. We like Chinese kung fu movies.
Maybe they should just add some kung fu in there.
I think there's a little bit, but it's not. You're right. It's not. It's more like Goku. Like I have a sword. Chinese Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. But then everybody has right. But then everybody has like German names. It's really fucking weird. So, but the interesting thing that was about it was the game had 108 different characters that you could get and use in parties, and some of them were just in your town. But these are all characters that you could actually get in your party for the most part. This came out almost as a response to, in conjunction with Final Fantasy VI, then Final Fantasy III came out, because that was the first Final Fantasy that had like 1 million characters. You played 3, right?
Final Fantasy?
Yeah.
Or,
like 6/3 that went for Super Nintendo that had the, and you didn't play either, right?
No, I don't play Final
Okay.
Fantasy.
So they had like, said with this thing.
I played a handful of the Final Fantasy games, but
It was the one that first used, it was.
did they release that one on DS?
Which one?
3?
Yeah. Yeah, they did a 3D remake. Well, not 3D, like 3D.
Right, but no, it was like the DS before the 3DS.
Yes, yeah.
I may have played it. It's
Oh, well, no, we're talking about different games. They released, so Final Fantasy had this problem where they had 1 through 6, and we only, when we were kids, got 1, 4, and 6.
Yeah.
They call it 1, 2, 3.
Right.
So I'm referring to Final Fantasy 6. That it was the second one for Super Nintendo. And it was the first, the second ever game to use mode 7 graphics. The first one was F-Zero, which had that. They used that to make the tracks and stuff like that.
Pretty sure it's Mode 7.
Is it actually? So anyway, Suikoden's one of those things that they could revive. If Konami really wanted to, they could reinvest in some of the pop music stuff too. So what do we have up next? Then we got Zone of the Enders. So that is you. I
Yeah.
actually never know anything about this.
So I pulled a lot of these images from an article I did about this on our webpage. If you want to go check out GlitchSlap and
Check out the article, it's badass.
Yeah, I think I posted that a few months ago. The video that we got for it, I believe is the trailer for the second one. Yeah, it looks like the trailer for the second one, not the actual trailer for the HD collection. Either way, the first game, in my opinion, was total garbage. I mean, not like it. If you wanted to get the background story before you played the second one, which is a real icing on the cake, the real gold nugget in this deal, go on YouTube and watch like a 5-minute recap of the first game or something like that, because it's definitely not worth the time and energy. It was put together. Oh, do you know allergic? Aren't you allergic too? What's wrong with you?
Massively allergic. Actually, I have no fear. There's cats in our studio. Anyway,
Other than the they're a lot quieter than the dogs. That's for
damn
sure.
true.
So anyway, second game, fucking amazing. I think both of them were done by Hideo Kojima as well.
Now, were they? Do you know enough about it to know if did he write them, or is it just his production team, or what?
I do not know for sure. I'd be inclined to say he wrote them, given the nature of the fighting mechs.
Okay.
But I do not know for sure.
Okay.
So, but anyway, it's a third-person style, almost hack and slash shooter. If that makes any sense.
I just coughed soda air through my nose. Oh. That's super cool.
Yeah, it's a great story, great game. Basically, some dude from your past is trying to destroy the universe and came up with some way that they're using this new form of energy. Sorry, I've been drinking. I've been drinking.
It reminds me of Xenogears.
It's a lot like a faster paced Xenogears.
Like if the mech parts of Xenogears didn't suck, it would have been like this.
If you made the mech parts of Xenogears into a hack and slasher, that's pretty much what it would be. Really cool thing about it is you fly around, and you can target all these different ships, and then there's you get these sub weapons. Like he's got Geyser up in the corner right there, which is he throws out these little orbs of light, and whatever they hit, they stick to, and they create this beam of light off, and that'll stun anything that comes near it.
Well, the first one, you were just some kid who got stuck in the cockpit.
That's why the first one sucks, because he was crying the whole time.
It's a very Shinji approach to life.
They tried to make it open world, and it didn't really work, because you had to just go from like location to location to location in this open world, but yeah, it wasn't actually open world. There was like two different phases. Like there's a flying part and a regular part. But
Does that robot have a boner?
that, see, and that's actually the most interesting part about this game. The robot's boners. That's the cockpit. No pun intended.
Cockpit. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
that's where the fucking pilot sits. I shit you not. Like they put their hand on it like they're about to caress it.
You dick, you not.
Yeah. Put their hand on like about to caress it. The top of it kind of like dematerializes, and then they lay down on it feet first, like you're about to jump into a big vagina.
A big Jew-gina?
Big vagina.
My god.
The J.
My god. I had never known. You know what's funny? Looking at this right now, I just thought it was part of his leg or something. You saw the dick. Like you looked at it and you were like, if it's not, I want that to be a dick because I feel like it should be.
And see, if you played the first one, that would be the first thing you notice, because whenever he'd go to fly, he'd like throw his arms back, kind of like this, and he'd lean forward. But the cockpit, the pilot needs to see where he's going, so he'll go.
Jesus. We got a boner so we can see where we're going. Does it ever go in? If it gets too cold, does it like retract in for warmth?
No, it kind of like it's a shower, not a grower. It stays the same size.
What the fuck is going on? That cat I picked up earlier in the studio is in heat now or something. It's great because when we were talking about dicks, the cameraman was laughing at me silently, but his mouth opened and it went like he was fucking making cat noises at me. So that was super creepy. Welcome to GlitchSlap Studios. We got angry pussy everywhere. All right, we went through. Oh yeah. So the next one is Silent Hill. I think this is pretty obvious. Hold on for 1 minute. Jesus, I don't know what's going on, but it's that fucking time of the month up with that pussy. Shit. All right, so Silent Hill, obvious. Everybody knows about Silent Hill. Silent Hill is also the butt of much discussion lately on the internet, which we'll also touch on a little bit more. But more specifically, I just want to speak about Silent Hill as a series in terms of probably one of 3 of Konami's biggest successes out there. Now, granted, they've kind of been, I think, scrambling since Silent Hill 3. A lot of people didn't like Silent Hill 3 as much as I did. But a lot of people also didn't like Silent Hill.
Is that the one with the little girl? Or not the little girl, the teenage girl?
Yeah, Silent Hill 3 is where you play the teenager who's grown up. It takes, I think, 16th birthday? No, I'm trying to remember. The 16th birthday of the little girl who was born and left that the guy at the end of the first one finds, who was the reincarnation of the daughter that he had. Super complicated shit. But at least it's a continuation of the story. 2 is the most celebrated amongst people of being the most psychologically fucked up games ever. We've got the beginning video in here. You don't know what's going on. It just kind of tells you as you're playing the video, like, oh, my wife is dead and she sent me some mail. Like, that's how the movie starts. Because he's living somewhere not in Silent Hill, and his dead wife sends him a letter saying, hey, come visit me in the place we used to vacation. So he drives his car out there. And it starts off, and the art even is so stark. In the first one, it was stark but weird, like they did very good CG movies, and then you kind of went out and you were this blocky dude running through the town and you shot this what looked like a tin can basically, and flying bat creatures and you couldn't tell what they were. But in 2, there was such a dramatic change between the PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 2 that you really, it's the first time you saw it. So that's gameplay. I think this is the HD remake, but sure. Would that be good enough for you to be able to stand playing it, I think?
Yeah.
I mean, we're still walking around a toilet, so I suppose it's...
Well, he hasn't seen Pyramid Head rape the mannequin yet, and I'm pretty sure that would be the selling point of mine.
I could just find you that video somewhere. So this game wraps itself around man in general. There's theories behind that different parts of Silent Hill represent different parts of his psyche. There's like a competition going on. I don't want to ruin the story for you if you decide to play it, to be fair. But they've done a very good job of mapping out the town. There wasn't a whole lot of bugs in it, at least that I experienced, even in the remake. And so it was just a really well put together game, and it was one of the most screwed up things people have ever seen. It represents the largest part of the movies that we were talking about off camera earlier. And then, like I said, Silent Hill 3 was pretty good, but then they started going down to some new ones in Silent Hill 4, The Room. I quite enjoyed because it was very different. This one, I think it might be Downpour.
Downpour.
It's Silent Hill Downpour, which I had talked about before, which I think was really the breaking point for a lot of people. I enjoyed The Room for what it was. This is a picture from Silent Hill 3. A lot of really wacky shit shows up in Silent Hill 3. But that's her climbing up a ladder through the... So I don't know how much you know about Silent Hill, but it's basically like teetering on hell. It's like Silent Hell, right? It's very much like it is in the movie, so you saw the movie.
Yep.
So you go back and forth between two different situations. This is a really well-known situation where he's sitting across from this girl who some people think is the embodiment of the sexual component of his wife. This is him dealing with one of the creatures. And this is what's really interesting to me is people are theorizing and they're like, oh, we don't have Silent Hills. Del Toro, I don't know why I'm saying him. Guillermo. There we go. Guillermo. I get them mixed up because I can't say names beyond my own native English.
Because he hears Del Toro and it's all of a sudden Benicio.
They all know each other, right? Well, no, I just like him as an actor. Can you blame me? I found that the elves in Hellboy 2 were not realistic, so personally, I'm not sure how I feel about Guillermo. And I can't say his name. But anyway, so this is some fucked up shit that was created for Silent Hill 2 before he was even around. So someone's saying, well, he's got to be involved with the character creation of something that's not going to be as screwed up. It was screwed up before. This is the kind of stuff they ran into. This is the kind of stuff that you should expect. So this is a picture up here in my head. I think it's actually someone cosplaying it. It might be the movie.
That looks like a
movie, isn't it?
Is it? It could be a very
maybe from the second one. If it's not from the second movie, I would say that's a fan art.
Could be. Somewhere I found out on
It's
web.
awesome.
If it's yours.
Nonetheless.
Let me know.
I love the
link
skin
it.
dress.
Super good. Yeah, that's super cool. But the game series, it's been a win from the beginning. So I don't know what you can say about Silent Hill other than that. I don't think that as an IP they're going to stop making Silent Hills. It's not going to go the way of Suikoden. It's not something that they're, and even if they did, they'd give it to somewhere else. So don't worry, that's not going to happen. But I don't think Konami's going to let it go. I think they're going to keep making games. They're just not going to involve these two particular people, which, by the way, were never involved to begin with. So, the next one, I think, is still my flabbergasting. Although you're playing through it again for 50th time, I don't think you've played this now.
Not this one.
Again, it's another game. It's so good. Castlevania Lords of Shadow. Now, I'm actually going to talk in terms of Castlevania entirely, and you played some of the older ones, right? This is just the newest one. Now, in the production team, Kojima was involved with this, but it was mostly done by Mercury Steam, but it was outsourced in terms of a lot of decisions and things. Some of the oversight was done. And actually, the one that had the most oversight by Kojima, which was the second one, was the one people didn't like as much. But we're going to play through some of the trailers from E3, I think like 2012 or something like that. This game in and of itself is a crown, beautiful first run of, if you were going to take how awesome the side-scrolling Castlevania games were for what they were. Every 3D Castlevania that I played, I just never really liked as much as the side-scrolling ones. Symphony of the Night, for instance, which the only other game that even gets close to that to me is Super Metroid. Super Metroid, amazing fucking exploration side-scrolling, period. If I ever thought that Metroid could got better, Super Metroid was that. And as Symphony of the Night comes out, Symphony of the Night it's so good. It's so open. There's so many little things. Like there's a million different weapons you can pick up, different things you can do. The control scheme was right on.
There was a weapon in Symphony of the Night that I picked up on my first playthrough, and my buddy played through it 4 times before he got it. And this was back within the first year that the game had come out. And then
what it was? That's what it did.
Yeah, each swing had 1,000. Swings.
Oh, it's the Silestain, where you would swing and it would go. Yeah.
I got that early in the game, right off the bat, for random drop. My buddy got it, and then it wasn't until they had that code that you put in for your name, and then have death. Yeah. It basically you get hit by the werewolf and it throws you through death, so you can keep all your shit.
Right.
But you lose everything, and your luck is really, really high, and everything else is really low. So you can grab everything rare.
So your stats are shit, but you never really get that.
and armor to
Right.
so it negates the fact that your stats suck. But it's the coolest thing, you get the rarest drops.
So this game, you can see just looking at it, they took a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like when I first saw it, I was like, oh man, they totally took it from.
Devil May Cry.
Well, Devil May. So you said Devil May Cry. But Devil May Cry, that's true. Like due to the fact that it's a fast-paced attack game, some people would say God of War, but to me, this came right about the time that
Dante's Inferno.
Dante's Inferno, I think it came out. Dante's Inferno was the closest thing to this game. But I feel like I love Dante's Inferno. It was super good. I would not say that either one of these games is better than the other. This one is voiced by Patrick Stewart. If we have some of the backgrounds that we can show up after this at the end of this, the backgrounds are amazing in this game. You see, I will play this game now and I will stop. And there's this vista when you're coming up on where you fight the witch, the crow witch.
Okay, yeah.
And that's not this one. This is when you're climbing up to meet the druid. But the crow witch, this right here.
That's
This is
the vampire.
This is the entrance to Castlevania. It's not called that yet, but this is the entrance to Castlevania. I don't think I have that at this I'm talking about. But you come up across this bridge, and it turns to the side. And it's not this, but I don't have a picture for it. It's fine.
No.
So you'll have to play through the game to see this. You come across this bridge, and there's this sunset off in the distance, and these icy mountains, and it is some of the most beautiful fucking shit you've ever seen. I can't even appropriately describe to you how good it looks. Seeing Castlevania from the outside, fully fleshed out,
When you walk up,
amazing.
when you walk around
Yeah.
that corner and the fucking cliff that you're walking against kind of moves to the side,
Yeah,
and
that's-
you see all of the castle that's a lair of the vampires.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's amazing, and it's never been done justice the proper way until this game. I will give some of that to Kojima, but he didn't come up like this is from 2. Okay, 2 didn't work as well, specifically because the fans, in my opinion, are the ones to blame for this. The fans said the biggest problem they had with the game is they couldn't move the camera. So they changed the game around so that you could move the camera around to do, and that's when it kind of, in my opinion, turned into more of a Devil May Cry game. It almost went completely that way. You had to go back and forth to collect things, unlock certain new items and stuff like that. The storyline was still pretty interesting. If you haven't played this, I'm not going to give it away. But it took away from their ability to do some of the really beautiful stuff with the backgrounds. Because then they have to make more of it CG, because when you spin, it's gotta be a skybox. If you put it in a specific place like this, I can make that background as beautiful and detailed as I want to, put maybe 2 or 3 moving layers, and it's amazing. The second you tell somebody it's got to be completely spin aroundable, it puts a limit on how many textures and how much stuff that you can do effectively. I think in PS4 that wouldn't be as much of an issue. Both of those games were for PS3, but they are absolutely amazing. If you haven't played them, go out there and play them. If you were a fan of the old school Castlevanias, so for you, for instance,
Yeah.
I'll get you copies of this game. We've got them on Steam, actually. I downloaded them, so if you wanted to have the option to play them, to stream them after
actually took this to the bar and was playing it, and Tony saw it. I was like, dude, if you haven't played this fucking game, you need to play this game.
I would, if you played
I'm
it,
playing through the first one just so I can go play through the second one.
I have the first one on our Steam account. I've got the first one. I have the HD remake of the, in my opinion, less awesome one for the DS.
Oh yeah.
Specifically the DS one.
Mirror
I got,
of Fate.
yeah, I got the, because you don't really know what the fuck's going on in the third one if you don't play that one, to be perfectly honest. And then the third one, or the second one. So we can play through them all. I'll give you access to them if you want to. Amazing experience. So from that, we go on to the mastermind behind what Kojima has really created for Konami, which is so why don't you take us into that?
Originally, I was just going to be talking about the first one, but then since we're talking about Konami, I guess it makes sense to talk about just Metal Gear as a whole. I never played the Nintendo ones. Did you play the Nintendo ones?
I've played every Metal Gear game that's ever been made, even the acid ones.
I played one of the acid ones, but I mainly started when Metal Gear Solid came out.
I think a lot of people do. Metal Gear 1 and 2 was
fucking amazing. Like there's really nothing else you could, no other words you could use to describe it. The game. If you like stealth games, it's hands down the game for you.
Now, have you played any of these? Yes. We may disagree on this, but what's your favorite one?
Oh jeez. It'd be a toss-up between 1 and 3. The original one, not the Twin Snakes version.
The original one.
Original Metal Gear Solid, I think.
Yeah, Metal Gear Solid 1. I thought that was great.
My favorite one is Metal Gear 3. Metal Gear Solid 3. Sorry, Solid 3. Not
Snake Eater.
Yeah. Snake Eater is fucking
Snake Eater was amazing.
so good. Like a lot of the stuff that we're even seeing in here is, well, those are from the Nintendo ones obviously, but a lot of the ones we're seeing that aren't from 4 in this video are from 3. Because 3 it was such a complex recreation of a very specific time period. It took the Cold War and really made it weird.
Yeah.
And some of even the way that they did the visuals behind the shots, where it was kind of clouded, so it almost kind of reminded you of like a Bond movie. The music, the whole goddamn thing.
What was it? The soundtrack for that was totally a Bond song.
Yeah, I usually hear something, like we were talking earlier about Thunderdome, like where they'll just find somebody and they'll be like, hey, could you just make a song that's basically like the name of this, and then try and sing it.
Here's the name of the game. I want you to make that the chorus.
Yeah. But Snake Eater was actually, you listen to it and you watch the video and you're like, this is fucking crazy. I think 2 was probably my least favorite one, honestly. It was alright, but it was also too weird and rainy. Like, that's the thing about this. All the things, and you can tell me if you disagree, all the things I liked about Metal Gear, there was a point where it would get a little too metaphysical for me, and I kind of jumped ship and was like, whatever.
Well, and 2 started to do that. 3 took it back to before that existed because there was no Sons of the Patriots or any, at least nobody knew about them back then. But I would almost put 4 on the same level I'd put 2 on. Like that whole like ID gun thing, which you need your nano machines to recognize the gun, and like I just want to fucking shoot people, guys. Like, if you drop a gun, I'm gonna pick it up and I'm gonna shoot somebody else with it. Don't make it some fucking complicated thing where I have to call my weapons dealer and have him unlock the weapon for me remotely. Which, if he could do that, why the fuck can't I do that myself? And
especially if you got Hal.
Right.
Which is like a tech genius and created 90% of the shit.
Yeah. Coldboy can create a little invisible robot that follows
an
me
invisible
around.
robot in an invisible suit, but he can't unlock a gun.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's about. This is
what are you talking about, man? She's hot!
Yeah, I mean, at least as hot as like Tifa was, like in Final Fantasy VII. But I gotta be honest, this is why I actually prefer the Twin Snakes version, because much like what you were saying before about maybe not wanting to go back and play the original non-HD version or something, I get a little shell shocked. Even if I haven't been a kid who played some of this stuff, I go back now, like I tried to play Final Fantasy VII a couple years ago, it was hard.
I tried to play this specific game on my PS1 at home, and I was like, Jesus Christ, I need an analog controller. I can't use this piece of shit anymore. I had to go buy a PS1 DualShock just so I could get around that, and even still, it was clunky, for lack of a better term.
So I see this, and I think to myself, all I see is a tattoo. Everything else is just a blob. It's like she has like a helmet shaped like hair.
Imagine that hair. That's like what's that guy from Death Clock? Fucking. She's got that fucking hair.
And everybody looks like Popeye. Everybody looks like
Pickles.
Popeye. Like Snake looked pretty good because he was streamlined, right? Like he was just in a black suit, so it's kind of hard to fuck that up. He looked way more Japanese back then because of how he was. They hadn't really fully morphed him on. But that's why I like the Twin Snakes one, because it just looks better.
Yeah.
I like remakes.
I didn't like the I didn't like how they made it look like it was made in Hollywood for the Twin Snakes.
Well, see, that's the funny part. Kojima loves Hollywood shit. He loves Western Hollywood shit. Kojima and Kojima Productions that he's branched off, and I kind of wonder if he's going to take this shit.
Perfect example, the Ocelot fight in the first Metal Gear Solid game. You're fighting Revolver Ocelot.
And where it's like shooting.
You know, after
in
you
the
fight
forum.
him, with the guy that's with the C4 and all that.
Yeah.
At the end of the fight, you just see a blur wave across the screen and a spatter of blood, and all of a sudden Ocelot's hand is clean off. The new one, he's bouncing all over the place. He jumps up and cuts a section of the ceiling off so he can backflip kick it right at Ocelot, and it's just, that was all not necessary, dude. Just cut his fucking hand off and be done with it.
Here's the thing, though. You say that, but you say that having played 2, which was all Raiden-esque, having seen them go down the line of...
Hey, I love Metal Gear Rising.
I
Go ahead,
think-
disagree with me.
No, that's fine. I'm not gonna. I thought it was cool in the tech demo. So we were at E3 playing this thing, and they just kind of sat you on a beach, and they were like, wave the controller around and see how many times you can chop up this
Giant watermelon.
giant watermelon into little bits. And when you got the gaming system down, like where you would aim for that little square and re-vengeance, and you would do your thing, I kind of got it. But at some point, I was also just like, it's too weirdly effeminate, and it's when they started going into the future. Metal Gear 1 I got. Metal Gear 2 was, my favorite part was on the boat at the beginning where you played as Snake, and then the rest of the game I was like, it's okay. I was glad Snake was there because I felt like if he wasn't there I would have hated the game.
Yeah.
You know, him kind of tongue-in-cheek doing his thing. But when I went on
When
to
he ducks
3,
that bullet, has it cut the handcuffs?
Yeah. It's so awesome, and you play Ryan, and everybody kind of that I talked to agree. They're like, I mean, like 2 was okay, but I didn't like I had to play Ryan. And so that's why 3 was so much better, because you played through 3 and you're like, oh fuck, thank God I'm playing a Snake. Oh,
But you're not Snake, you're Big Boss.
no, you're Snake. You're just not Solid Snake.
In the Metal Gear 3 Snake Eater?
Yes.
No, pretty sure you're Big Boss in 3.
Oh shit! If Terry was here, him and I would go up on top of you. So,
Yeah.
Liquid and Solid Snake are the successors to Snake. Just Snake was the original moniker for Big Boss.
Okay.
He was just Snake. He was never Solid Snake. Solid
Before he was Big Boss, he
Snake,
was,
he was Snake.
So,
you were playing
okay.
Snake, which was also perfect, brilliant marketing because you played it
Because
and
he
people were
wasn't-
calling you Snake.
He wasn't Big Boss because
No.
Snake had Boss.
Yep. And they called
And you can't
Snake.
be Big Boss when Boss is around.
Right,
You gotta
so he
take Boss
kills
out
Boss
first, then
and
you become
became
Big
Big
Boss.
Boss,
It's
yeah.
it's the same guy though.
Yeah, no, it is. It's the same guy, but it was just very interesting because if you didn't know what the fuck was going on, you didn't know you weren't playing Snake, which is actually what he's doing with 5. In 5, I don't know who the fuck that is. They call him Snake, but he sounds like
He's a clone Snake.
24.
Kiefer Sutherland.
Kiefer, he's voiced by Kiefer Sutherland. He might be a clone. He might.
Oh,
have,
I don't even know if I
don't
want
have
to
any
play it
clue.
anymore if David Hayter's not
Oh,
in
you
the
didn't
voice.
know that?
No, I didn't.
Oh yeah, they removed him a long time ago.
Fuck that, man.
So you don't know if it's a clone of Snake. You don't know if it takes. Oh, that's not true. I think somebody told me it takes place before. Now I'm confused. I've read so much stuff about it, but they do a very good job of obfuscating stuff because Mr. Man here is like well known as being the biggest fucking troll. He does weird shit all the time. So much so that this recent separation, which we should probably start getting into now, recent separation he had from a Konami that's been released, a lot of people, conspiracy theorists, think that maybe he didn't actually leave, that this is a giant PR stunt. And to what you were reading earlier, it could work if that were true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just like reading into people that look too far into things, I guess. So, for example, I was what he was referring to. I was talking to him about an article on the PT game that was released and how they inadvertently made it the most popular game on Earth by trying to erase it from the PlayStation Network. It's actually historical now because it's the first digital copy of a game that is actually a collector's item. There's certain things they're trying to do to make it so you're not allowed to play it anymore, even if you already have it. So
I guarantee
I don't
you.
have a PS4. I kind of wish I would have went out and bought one before all this shit happened, so I could get PT. And the game was
Sounds like
rad.
a burial
That's what I was thinking.
Oh yeah.
You can get PT.
Just get that check.
I'm totally potty trained, guys, so don't worry about that. But
So I don't know what's going to happen with this. Like, they had Norman Reedus involved and all this other kinds of stuff, and everybody was depressed, and like it's the end of Konami. I don't think that it is. I don't think that they're going to stop making those games.
yeah, and there was that other article I was reading that there's a point in the game. I don't know if you've.
I did my
Maybe
once
you
through.
played the whole thing.
I did my once through. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a point where he says, my father was like an average guy. He went to work the same way every day.
The phone call.
He ate the same thing every day, watched the same shows on TV every day. He was just that kind of guy. So there's a lot of people that are thinking that Kojima added that line, like that message, as far as like Kojima's supposed to be the narrator of that line, and Konami is the dad that's trying to get him to do the same generic thing over and over again. He was just being tired of it.
That is some
that was his way.
obscure shit.
Like I said, it's interesting. You
I
know,
love
like
that.
people reading
Sure, it's
way
interesting.
too far into shit. You know, I don't know if it's true or not, but like a lot of people are saying that was what, you know, that was almost like his exit.
Well, okay, so you read a little bit about this after we were talking about it prepping for the show, right? So you know about the situation, what's going on?
The stocks and everything.
Yeah, so, yeah, a little bit about how everything's going on with it in general. So, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen with Konami in general? Like, what do you think caused it? What are your impressions? We're spitballing here. Nobody knows, because they haven't released anything. Nobody knows what the conversation is. What do you think happened?
What I think happened?
Yeah.
It's big business bullshit.
Oh, okay.
That's what happened. I mean, obviously he's full of himself. Look at him.
Fuck this guy. Oh,
And,
man.
you know, Konami said do this, and he says no, and they're done with that.
Okay. All right, simple enough. What about you?
I mean, I don't think it's going to be the end of great games, I guess. I mean, you look at what Konami's done separately from Kojima, and you look at what Kojima's done like on his own while working with Konami. It's they're just being separated, and I don't think one of them gave so much to the other where they can't continue doing what they've already been doing.
Okay, so you think that they're still going to contract stuff to Kojima Productions?
I'm not saying that this might be the last Metal Gear game that we ever see, and we might never see a Zone of the Enders 3 as much as I would like to see one of those. But the fact of the matter is, it's just that the creative minds are still there, and I don't believe they're going to stop doing what they've been doing just because they're not working in the building they used to work at.
Okay.
So Kojima's going to find a new team to work with. I'm sure it'll be great.
Well, I think he. So
He own the
Kojima
rights and all
Productions.
that?
No, he owns none of the
Okay,
rights.
well then that's fine. It's fine.
Well, here's the thing. None of us really know what's going on.
Sure.
But Kojima Productions, which is like it's I think it's a separate entity, he pulled that out a couple years ago. Right? Made his own team, and Kojima Productions has half been contracting some of this stuff for a while. And then we talked about before how even some of the stuff like for Lords of Shadow, he moved over to Mercury's team. Mercury's team made most of Lords of Shadow. They just like had production oversight. When you think about in terms of what producers do, whether it's for an event or something else, if you were to say so-and-so's not going to produce this, so it's not going to work, that's like saying that Iron Man 3 wouldn't have worked because Jon Favreau was or wasn't involved in something. They still own the rights to Silent Hill. They still
Iron
own
Man
the
3
rights.
didn't work.
I like that.
Iron Man 3 is bullshit.
I like that. Love it.
Iron Man's biggest enemy is panic attacks now.
You know, honestly, have you read the comics?
Different show. Sorry, guys.
Have you read the comics? Have you read the comics?
No.
And Iron Man's biggest problem is actually alcoholism. And
So
they
why
didn't
did
wanna
they
make
focus
him
on that then?
Well, they kind of did. He actually has. He goes into an. I'm going to come back to this. But just to be clear, what happens between Civil War and some of the other stuff that happens before, and the reason why what's happening in the movies is actually largely what happens in the comics. They have some issues, and he kind of freaks out. He fucks up, and then he goes into an alcoholic binge and can't pull himself out of it. It gets ridiculous.
Oh, you like you did in Iron Man 2?
No, like he did in Iron Man 3. Iron Man 2, he just got suicidal. He's like, oh, I'm gonna die.
No, he got fucked up at his own birthday party, put the suit on, peed in it, and
Oh, yeah. Well, but I mean, his motivations were different. So, like in Iron Man 2,
okay.
he thought he was going to die. He actually thought that he had fucked something up, and so he starts turning into a complete lush all the time. And all they do is they replaced his alcoholism with something else. But the fact that he was having emotional issues with Pepper and all that other kinds of stuff, that all happens. I think that they just made a call to be like, let's not make it about alcohol, and we kind of did that in a second. But that's what makes him freak out. It starts making Ultron, X. I don't remember what the name of the virus is, but they refer to it in 3. Where I'm not okay.
we're gonna continue talking about this after the show because this is a different show.
We'll do a comic book.
Different show. We're gonna wait till Age of Ultron's been out for a little bit longer
Right.
before we start.
Civil War has
spoilers.
already been cast, so we can start talking about it.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's right. That totally off topic. I apologize. But in terms of Kojima, I actually wonder if maybe Kojima, don't quote me because I'm not a mind reader, I kind of wonder if he's not going to do as well as before. Because he has had the safeness of knowing that he has these IPs that Konami owns that he's been able to continue to make. I haven't even liked all of the Metal Gear games. He made Metal Gear Acid. Metal Gear 4 wasn't a huge hit. There hasn't been the PSP ones they tried to make that were supposed to be like bringing you back to Class 1. Those weren't huge hits. They tried to re-release HDs. So what's the biggest hit this dude has had other than Lords of Shadow, which he wasn't, it was just production oversight. What's the last game he made that was such a huge hit that without him, Konami wouldn't be doing anything? And I can't name something, and I think that's what happened. I think he, to your point, maybe he was pushing too much. They were like, I want to do Silent Hill. They're like, we want you to do Silent Hill. We think you're a smart guy. We think you do a good job. Lords of Shadows came out. Let's turn Silent Hill around the last couple of days and make that. He's like, fine, but I'm only going to do it if you do A, B, and C. You don't do exactly what I want, you go fuck yourself. And I'll take Norman Reedus, and I'll take Guillermo del Toro with me. And they were like, at some point, they were just like, you can't talk to us that way, man. And he was like, fine, I'll leave. And they were like, okay. I think that's what happened. I have don't quote me on it, but I think that's what
But you can't say there's not a bunch of other, like, game developers out there that would be like, if we could get Kojima on here for maybe 65-70% of what Konami was paying for him at the time, you know, way longer.
Sure. I think you might see him get into other projects, but I don't know that you're suddenly going to see brand new groundbreaking series by Kojima.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure there will be a new series, mind-blowing. I don't know.
I haven't had my mind blown by Metal Gear for a while.
Right.
That's my problem with it.
But I didn't have my mind blown by the first Zone of the Enders, and the second one did. Granted, that was 14 years ago now. But he hasn't put out another one since then.
So that's what I'm saying, is everybody talks about how awesome he is, and yeah, he has good stuff that comes out. But I don't know that Konami sat down and didn't say, our company's going to end if he wasn't there. I think he just had to go piss himself. So that seems like a good time to end the show, when he ran out to piss. So, thank you, everybody. We appreciate you listening to us drown on. I think for our next show, we're actually going to talk about Mother's Day a little bit. We've got some games that we want to play with our moms. And
we all love our mothers.
You don't have to remember who gave you the shit, dude. We were just at a monster convention.
London 1888.
London 1888. We do a shout out to him for this amazing Castlevania shirt that I just picked up. Go check it out if you can. We'll give a link in there later when we post stuff we can. And you guys have a great week. Thanks a lot.
Keep glitching, stop bitching, you little bastards.
Have a good one.